board. Perfect. I'm also going to start doing a live transcript. I feel like whenever y'all see these videos, I always say the same thing at the beginning. I'm enabling the live transcript. It's like a little script that I go through. So, all right, it is 3:05. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Today we're gonna be talking about negotiation, compensation. And before we get started, how many of you all are or have been in a situation where you had to um, negotiate? And you can put +1 if you've ever negotiated. Um, +1 naman. That's awesome. Maybe we can do a little practice with you since you have it at 4:30. So +1 if you've ever negotiated or you're in the middle of negotiating now. And we're going to go through this and hopefully give you some good negotiation tips. So let me know in the chat if y'all have ever been in that situation where you've had to negotiate. +2 if you have not. No shame in the game. All right, Naman, this is your first time. Amazing. Okay, +2. All right, so the good thing about those that are here that have never negotiated is that you will get a baseline of what to do when you get into that situation. I say when because it's only a matter of time. Y'all are all part of the CodePath family, so we're going to do however much we can for you to get hired, and having CodePath on your resume alone and having access, that's going to help you quite a bit. So it's a matter of time on when you get to actually negotiate your salary. So why are we negotiating? Today's agenda is why are we negotiating, when we're going to negotiate, what to negotiate, questions about salaries, responding to initial offers, negotiation basics, and supplemental resources on negotiation. Shout out to Kelsey. She created this deck and she is amazing. She's not here. But always shout her out because she has really held us down. Thank you to all other people who joined a little bit late, but we're happy to have you. So why are we going to negotiate salaries? Why is that a thing? And you can see some of the reasons here, right? It can help you decide between competing offers. This is a big one. It can prevent resentment from happening later on because sometimes you agree to something and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Has anyone experienced that? +1 if you've experienced oh yeah, I said yes, but then I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. +1 in the chat if you've experienced that. +1. Okay, yeah. So imagine if you experience that and now there's money tied and now the money you can't negotiate for more, and now all of your raises are based upon that, right? So that's going to can cause a lot of resentment. So there's also people who are less likely to negotiate, especially if you're from an underrepresented group or if you're from an immigrant background, because we are not taught to negotiate. I say we because I am both an immigrant, also Afro-Latina, and a female. So I'm and also have another underrepresented status. So I'm like a quadruple underrepresented person. So definitely understand from that perspective, and it's absolutely, absolutely true. So the average increase in salary is about 7% when you ask to negotiate. That's kind of in the middle, and we'll go over this in our negotiation in the rest of the presentation. But basically, you want to shoot for asking for anywhere from 10 to 20% more, and then 7% is kind of the sweet spot that you get. So 20% is your absolute goal, but that's why you should always ask for more, because it's probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be a little bit less. Managers expect you to do so. So I've had companies where negotiation wasn't allowed because they wanted to protect underrepresented groups, so we automatically gave people raises, but to those who negotiated, we gave them the raise, and we expected that from certain people, not so much from other people. So it is more of an expectation, and also just to show yourself how much you're worth. you know? Plus one if you think you're worth at least 100K. Plus one if you think you're worth 100K. At least 100K. All right, I should see everybody putting a plus one because everybody on here is worth at least 100K. All right, we're not in the business of accepting offers less than 100K for software engineer. All right, even if it's like your first job, because that's what starting offers across the board are, especially now in like remote times. Like location doesn't really matter. So if you have an offer that you're considering that's under 100K, ask for at least 100K. All right. So what is the life cycle of the salary negotiation? So basically, you want to, there's a time and a place, right, to negotiate salary because you don't want to do it too soon and you don't want to do it too late. So this kind of depicts where you should like start having the conversation. So caveat to this, there might be a possibility that the recruiter asks you in the screen how much you're willing to make, and you can say something like, right now I don't feel comfortable sharing that information, but if you want to share your number, I can see if it's aligned with me. And then if they share a number, you're like, yeah, absolutely, that aligns. If you say those words though during the screen, just know that that's probably going to be what they're going to offer you. So you're going to, don't be surprised if like they offer you that, and then if you want more, then they're going to be like, but you said yes. So definitely be careful to what you say yes to, especially early on, and do your research. We're going to go through that. So then you go through round one, phone screen, round two, phone screen, on-site, right, virtual or otherwise. Right after you're on-site and after you get your offer, that is when you have all of the power. Guess why? Because people don't get offers all the time. Like, it is a myth that everybody gets an offer. That's not true. Everybody at CodePath, I truly believe you can because you're learning how to interview, you're learning all of the skills necessary. However, most of the time it doesn't result in an offer. So when you do get an offer, guess what? The company has decided that they like you, right? And so you now have a lot more leverage, a lot more power to negotiate and really think about, okay, what is it that I want to do? All right. So something to think about is if you usually receive a verbal offer beforehand, so you want to say, I would love to see a written offer. Could you send me a written offer so I could review it? Right? There's a bit of caveat with that, but like you want to see something in paper because you can't prove a verbal offer, but you can't deny a written one, right? So you want to make sure that you're always asking for written offers. So when are we gonna when are we going to negotiate, right? So sometimes we don't have to negotiate. I'm a firm believer of negotiating still, even if you maybe have a couple of reasons not to, as long as it's a very respectful process. Meaning, like, you don't want to negotiate and be like, I deserve all this money, right? That's not how we approach it. Like, we want to make sure we're very respectful, full of gratitude and things like that. So some reasons not to negotiate. The offer is great, right? I still think even if the offer is great, you should try to just negotiate to get that practice. But that's it. But you were told like that they don't negotiate. Again, I would say if you were told in the beginning, just ask, if this comes up, just say, okay, like what's the reason behind that for you to understand and stuff like that. But if at the end you still feel like you want to negotiate, you can. However, if they did tell you it's going to be a really uphill battle and you're not seriously considering the offer. So if you are negotiating just to see what offer is going to be, bigger, that's going to look really bad to the company. So you only want to do this with a company you're extremely interested in, and if they say yes to all your terms, you're going to say yes to the actual offer, okay? So reasons to negotiate, right? You have nothing to lose. Absolutely not. Like, the worst that they can say is no, but they're not going to rescind the offer unless you ask for an exorbitant amount. So let's say they give you like 100K plus bonus plus equity, and you're like, I want 250,000. That's not gonna fly. Trust me, people have tried. And I've negotiated and I've hired a bunch of people, and people try this because they are like, I read somewhere that somebody got paid this. And I'm like, but you're just starting your career. That's not what you pay, right? But some people will try. So as long as you're being respectful, your offer probably won't get rescinded. Like 99%, it won't. Make sure that when you are negotiating, you're negotiating with gratitude first. So this is not. How many of you believe that negotiation is synonymous with conflict? Plus one if you, in your mind, when you think of negotiation, you're like, oof, it's gonna be a conflictive conversation. Plus one. Okay, I have some plus ones. Plus two if you're like, oh, it'll just be, kind of like asking someone to lunch, no big deal. Okay. All right, so Uzair, that's a great point. You're like, it feels more ungrateful than conflict. Guess what? That is internal conflict. So conflict in its forms can be internal or external. So if you have a conflict internally where you feel like, oh, I'm ungrateful for not taking it, that's an internal conflict because you actually want to negotiate, but you feel ungrateful. So that's an internal conflict that's being generated. So there's a couple of people that like, it's fine, like we can negotiate, but for a lot of people it feels conflictive. So really remembering, like, just like the tone that I have when speaking, right? That's the tone you should be negotiating from. You should not be like, okay, well, I deserve this, that, and the other. I'm not going to take the job. Da 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 da. Like I've had people actually like negotiate with me that way, and I'm like, no, right? And then I've had people really negotiate with me from like like scared and being like, do you think I could have da 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 da, right? You don't want that either. And so you want it to be very like firm and assertive, but also with a lot of enthusiasm and gratitude. So being like, thank you so much for the offer. I really appreciate this. I'm going to take some time to think about it. I will send you my questions via email, and hopefully we can wrap up, this negotiation by like a few, like 2 weeks or a week max, right? So again, you want it to sound very assertive. The reason why I'm sharing with you is because how often do we talk about money, right? Like how often do we really talk about money? Plus one if you spend your life talking about money to other people, or plus two if you're like, what? I can't remember the last time I had a negotiation conversation, right? Plus two, we don't talk about money, but what we do is negotiate quite often, because if you think about um, maybe your friend or your family, let's say going out to eat, and they say, I want pasta, and you say, I want pizza, or I want sushi, right? There you've entered in a negotiation, right? So there's two ways the negotiation could go. It's like if like it's like a family member, you could be a little bit more, assertive and be like, no, but I really want sushi, and then it can kind of, kind of go back and forth. But typically, if it's like a friend or somebody who's a little less close, it's a little bit more respect and stuff like that. So you can like have that friend mindset and be like, hey, this is just like me talking about sushi versus pasta with my friend, right? And that can help you get into that energy of like what you should be sounding like in negotiation conversations. So what can you negotiate? Right? Like there's are things that you can negotiate. You can negotiate your salary, which is number one, right? You can also negotiate your start date, your relocation, your schedule, your 401k. You can uh, negotiate your vacation. You can negotiate, what you're gonna be working on. You can negotiate like your pay raises and your pay raise rate. So you can negotiate a ton of things, right? So it's important to keep in mind. So when I first started, I would negotiate vacation because I love to travel. I've been to like 26 countries, and I did that all in my 20s while I was like fully employed. Now that I have my own business and I work remotely, I don't travel half as much, which is funny because it would have been so much easier to do it this way. But what I did, I would negotiate vacation a lot because I knew I was gonna go travel. So for internships, you want to make sure that you're researching tech salaries. So things that are helpful are things like Levels FYI, Glassdoor, Indeed, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, anything like that. You can go, I think it's like pay, um, I forget, there's one more website. I can send it out after this. Um, and you can go in and see how much interns are getting paid in your area. You want to make sure that you want to see how much your living expenses are and like, okay, can this actually cover me? Um, you want to create a proposal, and more of like a proposal sounds a little bit more formal. You want to create an email, right? Kind of outlining the reasons you want to negotiate. You can't just negotiate because you're like, I think it's a good idea. You have to actually say the reasons why, right? And if they say no, pay scale, there you go, Timothy. That's absolutely, I was thinking Paylocity and I was like, that's not it. That is absolutely not it. So thank you, Timothy. It's pay scale. Um, but there's always a chance they're gonna say no, so you gotta see, okay, like if they do say no, what am I gonna say, right? And how am I gonna react? All right. So do I have any questions so far? Because I've been kind of going pretty fast. Okay, no questions. Everybody feels like they know how to negotiate. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on. So when you're answering questions about salary, this is probably where the first negotiation starts, right? You don't want to talk about, you don't want to tell your salary range, right? Because what happens? You don't know what the salary range of that company is. So I think there is somebody here, I don't remember their name, or I'm not going to share their name. I do know who it is. But he was saying, okay, well, I want to negotiate with this one company for this amount of money. And then when he went to another company, because he had like two internships back to back, they actually gave him a number that was way higher than what he wanted. So, had he shared his number preemptively, guess what? They would have met him at that number. Because guess why? Businesses want to hire you for the least amount of money possible. It's just a business decision, right? So um, you don't necessarily want to lead with what you think is going to be a good range, but you want to wait for them to actually tell you, right? Um, so ways to avoid the questions are anything like negotiable depending on total compensation package. I don't see salary being an issue as long as it's within market rate. I expect to be paid in line with other employees. I prefer waiting to discuss salary. Um, and if you have to give a range of like 20 to 30K using salary research resources. So a good way to think about your salary range is like your ideal salary is this, or your the low end of your range is your ideal salary, your like absolute lowest salary, right? Then you're gonna add about 10% to that, and that's gonna be your mid range, and then you're gonna add 20%, and that's gonna be your like high end, right? So even if you give that range, you're still getting the minimum salary that you wanted. Okay. So there's a couple questions. What are reasonable things to mention in your proposal for intern position? So things like I've worked, you can outline I've worked on different projects that like directly affect your company. You can also outline any offers that you've gotten. You can also outline, based on this research, this is what, the market rate is. So I want to be paid in compare, in the same line as other employees. So you can say any of those things. I don't know if that answers your question, Aishwarya, but if it, yeah, okay, perfect. And Sarthak, what figure do you enter in online application? You can, if you have to enter a number, I would say it really depends. Some of them, like if it has to be higher than zero, I would enter the higher range of your higher or the mid number of the salary range that you ask for, because you never want to lead with a low number, because if they can't meet you there, right, they'll probably try to like talk it down lower until you'll accept an offer that you really don't want because you already figured out a number that works for you. So I would say that middle number, that high number, depending on what you're thinking. All right. So negotiation basics. So using email versus phone. I would say who here feels they could have a negotiation conversation no problem? Like they could get on the phone and negotiate, 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 negotiate. Plus one if you feel like you could handle a negotiation conversation on the phone. Okay, James. All right, plus two. Anyone else feel like they can handle a negotiation conversation on the phone? Yep, Aishwarya, exactly. Plus one. All right, Sarthak, you go. You go do that. Have that conversation. Plus two is Duke. Absolutely. So a lot of these things that you outlined are completely right. And also something to think about: the person on the phone with you is a master negotiator because they negotiate with everyone they hire, right? So if you cannot keep up in a phone conversation and that might fluster you, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the situation that you're going to feel the most comfortable in, because salary negotiation is not easy. So just like James, Aishwarya, and Duke were saying, you know, and Mar, you know, using email is going to give you a paper trail, right? It's going to give you convenience. It's going to give you time to think and answer. So you can actually craft a message. I can review it for you if you ever need. Kelsey can review it for you. And then it's really going to help you kind of have some time to think and ask for exactly what you want. So if me, I would say email over the phone, and you can just say, hey, thank you for the offer. I would love to see the written offer, and I will get back to you with any questions that I have. All right, and so they'll send over the recent written offer, and then you can negotiate from there. We have negotiation templates, and also that, like on Timothy, I don't know if you can send the negotiation template doc. If you could, that'd be great. And please, and in those templates, you can see like how you would structure it, but typically it is really about, like, you know, kind of like showing gratitude and then going into and explaining like one or two reasons why you want to negotiate, right? Um, you also want to be really genuine in your negotiation. You don't want to just do it because you want to get more money. You want to just be like, hey, this is something that I think I truly deserve, right? A lot of us don't feel like we deserve, again, the most, but we have to work on that so that when we ask for it, it is coming from a genuine place. Okay? And then you want to make sure that you have a walkaway number. So let's say that they're like, oh, we can't do any of that. You want to be prepared to walk away, right? And so being very, very mindful that, like, if you try to negotiate and they can't meet it, like, what are you going to actually do, right? And so you can actually have somebody review the message you send. So again, me or Kelsey, and then you can send it out, because negotiation can be scary. You're not alone. We're here to support you. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do maybe some negotiation role play, because I really want to people to understand what negotiation sounds like and what it can be like. So this is going to be more phone versus email, but again, there's a lot of templates. Timothy just sent the salary negotiation guide, and so you can take a look at that for the email templates. But so for now, for the following like 15 minutes, we're going to do some salary negotiation role playing, and then at the last 15 minutes will be questions. All right. So I think there is there was, I believe it was Naman who has a negotiation conversation coming up at 4:30. So Naman, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and like be on camera so that we can kind of practice negotiating?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. So tell us a little bit more about the position. Who, like, where are you interviewing at? What's the position, and what exactly are you negotiating?
So I am currently negotiating at AWS for a SD1 full-time position.
Congrats!
And thank
Yay!
you.
Let's give Naman his flowers. Clap for him. He is going to Amazon, y'all. Hey, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yay. Awesome. Amazing to hear. Okay. So, what exactly do you want to have you gotten a written offer?
Yeah, I got a written offer last week.
Okay.
And yeah, so I want to negotiate on the base salary that they are offering.
On the base salary? Okay. And what are
Yeah.
you negotiating?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, if you're not comfortable giving specific numbers, that's fine, but like maybe a percentage if you want to do that instead.
Yeah, so whatever they are offering, I like according to my market research, I deserve at least 20K increase in my base salary, but I am prepared to walk away in like 10 or 12K also.
Okay, so you're prepared to say yes and accept for 10 to 12K.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, what kind of conversation have you had with the recruiter so far?
I had a conversation with her last week, and she just explained me what the offer was,
Mm-hmm.
and that was basically it. And now I am supposed to, I have a conversation with her today for like 15 to 20 minutes, where I'm
Okay.
supposed to tell her what my expectations are.
Okay, awesome. So you're gonna be using a phone method versus email, correct?
Yeah, I'm I kind of walked into the phone method. I have to say that was not the best decision that I made.
Okay. So in this situation, you can still, because it's at 4:30, so you have like an hour, you can still be like, hey, would you mind if I send you some questions via email we can go over? So you can still do
Okay.
that if you want. So
Mm-hmm.
you can have more of a outline for your salary negotiation um,
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got walked into that?
Actually, it was not my recruiter. It was all the people that I took advices from, and they said that it's better to negotiate on phone, and that way you can explain your word to them. And an email would be just about how much you are expecting, but a phone can give you an opportunity of why you are expecting that, what's your worth, and why do you think that you deserve a raise for that. So I kind of walked into that one. Since everybody I knew told me that, so I was like, okay, let's schedule a call.
Okay. So you can also do that via email because I definitely understand, right? So you can also do that via email. You just have to kind of outline that and be like, and be able to put it in that email format. But you can definitely do that via email. You don't have to do it over the phone. And that's why I say, like, if you are in this position, you can always email me. I can always look over your negotiation emails. So how are you
Yeah,
feeling?
definitely.
Yeah. So how are you feeling specifically about the negotiation?
Feeling as in I'm a bit, I don't know, scared is something that I am as of now, but yeah, I'm just, you would say I'm concerned.
Okay. And what is your main concern?
My main concern is, I mean, I don't know how this conversation is gonna play out. I don't know, like I have never negotiated in my life before.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely all the people says that the other person would definitely say that, hey, we don't have that kind of money and all. So how am I going to, make them believe that, okay, like I know they have that kind of money. It's just that they are not giving it to me. So I
Okay.
don't know how to make them, give me that money.
Okay, so based on what you learned here today or what you knew before, how would you want the conversation to go and what tools would you use in order to, secure that money?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a trick that I don't know where I got that from. So the trick here is like, apart from being very very much gentle and grateful to her because she gave me that offer, I scheduled this conversation in at 4:30 in a Thursday evening. So I mean it's about time that she might leave the office. So I don't know if she would fight me that much around the time where you are supposed to finish off your work. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, this is something that I would do. So yeah, I mean, apart from that, being very grateful to her and speak in a very soft tone, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry about this. I don't know what. I pressed. So let me share my screen again. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and well, since we're here, I'm just gonna go ahead and we're gonna start. So the reason I went through this with y'all is because I want y'all to be able to ask yourself all these questions, right? Who am I speaking with? Why am I choosing this? You know, how can I kind of empower myself? So, all right, Naman. Hey Naman, we're gonna start. So, hey Naman, we're so excited to have you be part of the AWS team. Thank you so much for scheduling some time with me. Um, as we discussed, this is the offer that we are giving you. What are your thoughts?
Hey, Catalina. So happy Thursday, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And before even we start this conversation, I would really like you to thank like for the offer that you have provided me. And working with a tech giant such as Amazon has always been a big goal of mine. And now having an offer in hand, it feels like a dream come true. So I would like to thank you for that. And regarding the offer that we have, although I am really grateful about the offer, and like the initial salary offer looks very interesting. As per my current market analysis, I think a person with the experience, with as much experience as I do, and all the achievements that I have achieved, I think a base salary of X amount would be a fair compensation for me. And I would like to know what your thoughts are.
Okay, awesome. Unfortunately, I don't know like if we can actually do that because that's quite a significant amount over.
Mhm.
Typically for like new grad positions, we are very strict on our limits, and so I'm not sure what we can do.
Yeah, I definitely understand your standpoint, but uh, like if I tell you a bit about myself, you could say that I am a full stack developer, and I have experience of 2 years in a tech giant as big as IBM. And it is that company is really known for the quality of engineer it produces, and it really is a testament of my skills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm myself a master's student, and all those semesters that I've been with NC State, I have maintained a 4.0 perfect GPA, along with a part-time research assistant and an open source contributor. So I think that can say that how I am self-managed, and how my time, like the time that I manage, is effective. With all those experience that I already have, and as per my discussion with the hiring manager that I had, I feel like I could be a really good value addition to the team, and the job requirement matches my area of expertise. So I would not say that I am a new, like I would not compare myself with a new grad, because apart not from starting from the base, I am already at a level that all other engineers in the team are, and I feel like I could contribute more than anybody else. So that's why I think that that the salary that I have in mind is is matches to the expectation that the role have with me.
Mm-hmm. No, and I totally hear you. I totally hear you. Let me see what I can do. I would have to get back to you because I'm not sure. If we're not able to meet that number, what would happen?
Um, I trust your best judgment on this. I trust you that you're gonna get me an amazing deal. And I think that you know my profile. You have been associated with me right from the beginning of this interview process. So I know that the skills and the feedback that you have received from the interviewers, and I believe that you will come up with a good number.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I'll get back to you and we'll discuss next steps.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so how did how did he do, everybody, for his first time? Beast, amazing, pretty good, awesome, awesome, awesome. Wow. Okay, Catherine, I love that. I love that. Give him the money. Uh-huh. Pretty composed. Look, how do you feel, Naman, right now? How do you feel?
I feel amazing. I feel that people here shares the same enthusiasm as my recruiter does.
Good. Amazing. Awesome. So pretty composed. So how do you think you did?
I might have a bit, you could say, I might have, I don't know, I might have hesitated a bit in the beginning and the middle, but as the conversation went ahead, I think I made my point,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, yeah, this is what I think. I am a bit scared as of now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So what do you think you could have done better?
Um, I don't know. I don't know what I did. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it should I have explained myself into like a more over why I deserved that? Maybe that's the case.
Mm-hmm. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think he could have done better? Because I know he was great, and I agree he was great, but we can always do a little bit better, right? So, what could he have done better?
Um,
And it's okay, we can give him some time, right? And it's like it's a safe space. We welcome feedback, all the things. Yep, less ums, more assertive. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Gallo. Mm-hmm. Not sure what stack he was specializing in, but I think he can emphasize that his experience can be an immediate contributor. Yep. Offer how you're my ideal candidate and providing value to the business. Mm-hmm. Timothy, any one more person that wants to give? Okay, maybe you could stress on the fact that the offer was below market rate. Mm-hmm. And then Ojena says, "Are you still going with the plan to use the email route?" So yes. So what I would say, it has to be more assertive. I think at the end, I was very surprised the way that you were like, you know, I deserve this pretty much, and in a very calm tone. So I think that was great. When I asked you, what would you do if I didn't get you the offer? You were like, I trust you completely. I think you're going to give me a great deal, because that's exactly what you should do, right? You should definitely like put um, compliment the person and be like, I absolutely believe in you and I really want to work with you, right? That is how seasoned negotiators do it. I would say correct to a lot of people. Um, you know, Towards the middle, it sounded you were like negotiating to negotiate, right? And so I think how Aishwarya was saying, stress the fact that the offer was below market rate. And so you can say something like, thank you so much for the offer that I received. According to my research, it's about 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever, below market rate, for an engineer in a similar company. So I would love to understand, how we could get it closer to that on market par, right? So you want to kind of, um, level with the recruiter and think of yourself as a team. So that's why I say, like, maybe in these next like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you can write out a draft once we're done, and then you can write out a draft email and then send it to her so you have some points to talk about. And so you're not just like, kind of floundering. Um, and I think that'll give you a little bit more kind of a grounding experience. The second thing, and this is very important, and this is what I say to everybody, whether it's your first conversation or whether it's a negotiation conversation, it is not about you. I don't care how many things and how many masters and how many this and how many that you have. I don't care, because that's all about you. What I care about is like, how are those skills going to help me? Right. And so there's a part in the middle where you were like, well, I did this and I did that and da da da, and I'm awesome and blah, blah, blah. And it's great. Absolutely great. But that's not helping me make my case. Right. That's just telling me information. And it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything. So you have to kind of make that tie, and you have to be the one that says, well, not only is it below market rate, but given my experience and what the team is trying to do, I definitely think I would be the best candidate and deserve a rate that is more competitive. The reason why is because from my interviews, y'all are working on problems that deal with X, Y, and Z tech stack. My experience, I have 8 years, 4, 5, 6 years of experience working in this particular tech stack, all the way from this iteration to that iteration. And so I think with this experience, I could really bring a fresh look to this problem and also help solve it in a very unique way. In addition to that, I am a master's student. I do have, you know, 4 years, I'm making this up, but 4 years of experience in the tech world and have been in an environment that is very similar to Amazon or where Amazon is trying to get because I worked at IBM. So I would be able to step in to that environment with very little training, so it is something that I would add value in and be able to execute within the first like month. Do you see how that sounds very different from what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I should improve that.
Mm-hmm. So again, that's why we're doing this, because a lot of folks are not used to talking about the we think that negotiation is about us. It's not about us, it's about the company and the value you add, right? So, does everybody see plus one in the chat the difference between him saying all about his experience and then me saying how his experience actually impacts him being a good employee for the company? Do y'all hear the difference? Plus one in the chat if you do, right? The reason I am saying that to you is because if you choose to have a conversation, right, you're going to have to be able to do that on the fly. So, like, we're going to have to practice. And if you don't have access to me that day, I want you to be able to look at this recording and go back and see this, right? The reason is you are selling yourself to a company that's going to use your skill sets to make money, right? So they, at the end of the day, are more interested on how your skill sets are going to help them be successful than in all of how you got the skill sets in the first place, right? So it's all about making it about them and not about you. Similar in interviews, right? Every single time you do a STAR method, you talk about what you do, but ultimately you are ending with what you can do for them. And so it's kind of a reframe to go from one mindset to the other. All right. So I think with those changes, you would absolutely be ready to negotiate. So I hope that the conversation goes well. I would say go ahead and draft that email and say, the offer was below market rate. Talk about your experience and specifics with the tech stack and the projects that they're working on. And then let her know, like, if you're able to meet this salary, you would accept on the spot or you would accept immediately, right? That is one thing about negotiation, that why we only negotiate with people that we're really serious about, because if they do come back and they're like, hey, we're going to give you the 20K to start today, you have to be prepared to say yes. Right? So you can say that in the email, and you can say something like, I'm really looking forward to a conversation. If the conversation goes well and we're able to meet, if we're able to get closer to that 20K more, I'd be more than happy to discuss next steps in the phone call, um, and accept immediately. So making sure you're using languaging like that so that the recruiter can go back and be like, okay, he's serious, he wants to get hired. Because a recruiter, part of their job is to hire people. So if they hire you, guess what? They're gonna look good to their boss, right? So they want to be there for you. They want to be your ally there. Okay? All right. Well, thank you so much, Naman. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just one. So, do you think that since the call is like 45 minutes away, do you think that it's okay for me to, cancel that call and instead send an email? Is it too late now?
Yes, I think it's too late. So what I would do is I would draft that email, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you so much. I'm super excited to talk to you. Really looking forward to our conversation. These are the points that I would like to discuss in our call. Once we discuss this on our call, I'd be ready to accept immediately if the terms are met. Looking forward to chatting with you and continuing, and super excited to potentially join the team, right? It can be very simple, but that way
Mm-hmm.
you have an anchor, because what I'm trying to do for you is just anchor the conversation. And then
Okay.
you can have the conversation. And this is why I say emails are always better than phone calls, because with phone calls, you only get one shot. With emails, you have some time to think about it. Okay, but I think you're gonna do well, especially like that energy that you had at the end, like the one that's like, okay, well, I'm worth it. I know you're gonna fight for me. That's the energy we're talking about. All right. So with these last 10 minutes, and thank y'all. Hopefully that was helpful because he is somebody who does have a real life recruiter call for. Um, like hopefully that was helpful to see kind of in real time. So internship negotiation proposal, right? A lot of internships don't actually allow negotiation, but again, this is for practice. You want to list 1 to 3 bullet points. I would say 2 to 3 bullet points, not just one. The first bullet point you want to list with internship negotiation proposals is really about the rate and how it compares to market. And you want to say it's whatever percentage below market rate for your area or for a remote position, right? You want to root this in you want to root this from a factual perspective. You don't want to just say, I think I deserve more, right? Because that's never going to work. And then the second thing you want to say is reiterate the reason why you're asking for more things. So, like, you want to reiterate, hey, I have this experience, or I have this specific project that I did that could help me be like the best intern, or the best full-time person. And then the third thing you might add is saying, like, in addition, I would like to negotiate vacation or 401k or starting bonus or whatever, right? Something that's really unrelated to the salary, so that you can still kind of sneak something in if it's something that's important to you, right? Or like working remotely and things like that. Okay, so that's what you would put in any negotiation proposal, in internship or full time. So, um, with this second, we have about 10 minutes left, so I'm gonna take 5 minutes. So, anybody want to practice with me, just telling me no when I ask you for a number? Anyone feeling brave? Yes. Okay, Sarthak, we have you on deck. If you could turn on your camera.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm
Yeah, I
not
can hear
sure if my camera will work. I'm just
you. Okay. All right, so we're gonna just do a quick 3 minute exercise for those watching, also for the recording. Um, so let's see if we can get your camera to work. I think it's trying to work. There you go.
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start. Do you have any companies that you're interviewing with right now?
I have a coding challenge coming up with Volion Capital Management.
Okay. So let's pretend I'm from, and you said volume capital management?
Volion,
Volume.
Voleon, Volion.
Okay. Volume. Okay,
Yeah.
so this read as volleyball, which is funny. So, all
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna pretend I'm a recruiter. So, hey,
Okay.
Sarthak, I'm here from Volume. We're so excited for you to do the coding challenge. You did great. We want to move you on to the first round. Before we move you on, I really wanted to have a conversation with you around salary requirements. Do you mind sharing those with me?
Um, I'm fine with any salary that is competitive enough for my role, my work experience, and educational qualifications, and also the market rate going on right now. So I would prefer not to discuss the numbers, but anything that is commensurate with what others in similar positions are getting, that should be fine, I think.
Okay, great. So, right, we have a little bit of a different structure. So, we do like to, individualize our offerings. And I know we're kind of far from it right now, but we want to make sure that we're in line. Do you mind sharing just like a range that maybe you have?
Well, I saw that the position might be either in Berkeley, California, or Austin, Texas. And I did a little bit of market research. So I think around 100K dollars per year should be good for a data analyst position like that.
Sarthak, no. Right, we don't want to do that because
Okay.
you want to go back. You don't want to, if you have to say it, you want me to say it first, right? So we can't
Okay.
fold after the second time. All
Okay.
right. So we want to say something like if I ask you, hey, I really need a range, you can say, so I don't want to discuss my individual numbers, but if you could give me, like right away, but if you could give me what typically this position, a range for this position is, then I could give you a range based off of that, right?
Okay.
Want to not say our number because what if they were going to pay you 135K? You just
Okay.
lowballed yourself and you're now getting 100, right?
Okay.
So who would have done something similar to Sarthak? Who would have been like, okay, you asked me twice. I have to tell you. Plus one, and be real honest with yourself, right? Because when I first started, I was like, oh, oof, I can't, like whatever you need. I just want this job, right? So do you see how by him saying like he just gives me, I'm like, okay, so he wants 100K. All right, cool. I'm gonna give you 100K, right? Um, but if you push back and it's like, hey, I totally understand. I would love to understand your range first before giving mine and giving you a range based off of that. Do you see how that isn't conflictive, but it's very respectful and it can actually potentially open up the opportunity for you to understand what they're offering? Do you all hear that in that languaging? Plus one if you hear it, plus two if you're like a little confused.
So if they ask, even for the second time they ask for a number I'm not supposed to give.
No. Even for the third time, right? Because so basically all companies are trying to do, especially now, is get you for the lowest price possible. If you
Okay.
are, again, from any type of underrepresented background or marginalized background, right? You are jumping at the chance. You're like, I just want a job. I don't care how much you pay me.
Okay.
And that's where the like taking advantage can happen. And it's like historical, right? Women and minorities typically get paid less, not because they do less work, but because they typically don't negotiate or give up their numbers too soon, right? So you want to be very, very, very careful with giving up your number, because if they pay you 100K, right, over 50 years, if or over even 10 years, if you could have gotten 110, that is going to just compound, right? Um, so you don't want to give numbers. You want them to give numbers first, or you want to say, and you're going to get the slides of this. So you can say any number of those things and say, at this point, I'm not comfortable really sharing the range, but as we get closer to the offer, I'd be happy to do some research once I understand more about the role, right? So you still want to continue, and if they continue asking, you can be like, this is definitely a point where I really want to hear more about the opportunity before letting you know. Would that be okay? And then continue back and forth. Again, all respectful, not conflictive. You're not gonna yell at someone and be like, I'm not gonna give you a number. No. We're not gonna, right? But we're gonna be very, very gracious and assertive in our no's. If anybody wants to practice, um, um, you can schedule some time with me. So there's a question, what do you say where they tell you we can't move forward without having a range? So in that case, you can ask, okay, I have my range based on market research, but I would really love to understand, based on other people that have started in my role, what range do they typically give, right? So you still want to push back and you want to push back respectfully because, again, you don't want to give up your number. Most recruiters, after you say that, they're like, oh, okay, they're serious. Also, if they ask for it, because I know there's a question of like, can they ask for what you made? They cannot. So if they say, um, what did you make before? You can say, that information should not, have any standing with my current pay rate. So unfortunately, I'm not able to share. Also, another thing to think about is if you don't know and they still don't tell you, you can say, hey, according to like California law or New York law, I'm allowed to see, or I would like I think according to California and New York law, I don't know what other states have this law, but you can say, I'm allowed to see the pay band, so I'd really love if you could share the pay bands with me so I can make a more informed decision about the range that you're asking for, right? So these are all ways for them to really show you exactly what they're paying so you can get pay parity. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I know it feels very uncomfortable saying no multiple times, but would you rather say no multiple times or find out that you got lowballed by like 20K? Plus one if you would want to get lowballed, plus two if you're like, okay, we're going to negotiate. Plus two, we're negotiating, right? Because we don't want to get lowballed. I want every single one of you to have the most amount of money possible. This is something I wish I knew when I was like in your shoes, and so that way, that's why I do this, and that's why I really talk about this quite a bit. With that being said, you can schedule some time with me with the link in Slack, and you can put salary negotiation. We can practice. But thank you all so much. I will send out the recording either later tonight or tomorrow, and you can have access to this recording. I hope it was helpful to see somebody actually go through this, someone who's actually going through this in a little bit. And I have another call to go to, so thank you so much, and we will talk soon. Thank y'all.